Most people think the emergency fund question is what's the best account? But the real question is how fast do you need the money? Because my car died and I need to pay today and I might lose my job in 6 months are not the same kind of emergency. And if you keep your entire emergency fund in one place, you usually create one of two problems. Either it's super accessible but earns basically nothing, or it earns more but becomes annoying or stressful to access right when life is already stressful. In this video, I'm going to give you a simple decision tree that tells you exactly where to put each dollar based on your real timeline. And I'll also show you the one common safe-looking choice that can still backfire when timing is bad. Also, if you're thinking, I don't even have enough saved to bother splitting it up, perfect. Splitting isn't about being fancy. It's about making your first $500, your first $2,000, and your first $10,000 behave correctly when real life happens. Quick note before we start, this is general education, not personal financial advice. You still make your own call. Here's the simple idea. Your emergency fund shouldn't be one pile, it should be tiers, because real emergencies happen at different speeds. Some things require money today, some things require money within a few days, and some things are bigger, slower emergencies like job loss where you might not touch that money for 6 to 12 months. So we're going to build 3 tiers. Tier 1 is need it today. Tier 2 is needed in 1 to 3 days. Tier 3 is probably won't touch for 6 to 12 months. And once you set this up, you don't have to overthink it again. Okay, decision tree step 1. Could this emergency require you to pay today? Think, a car repair where you need the car back, a medical copay, a deductible, a bill that would trigger a fee, or even a last-minute flight for a family situation. If the answer is yes, that money belongs in Tier 1. Tier 1 is your need it today money. This is not where you chase the highest interest rate. This tier is about speed and certainty. Tier 1 works best at the same bank as your checking, so transfers are instant. Tier 2 can be at a different bank for better yield. The goal is simple. When something happens, you can pay without panic, without overdrafting, and without putting it on a credit card just because money is taking time to transfer. The good rule for Tier 1 is 1 week of expenses. Or if you're still building, start with $500 to $1,500. Even a small Tier 1 buffer prevents a lot of expensive domino effects. Overdraft fees, late fees, credit card interest, stress. Now decision tree step 2. If you don't need it today, but you might need it within a few days, that's Tier 2. Tier 2 is the backbone of your emergency fund. Its job is to stay safe, stay boring, and stay easy to transfer. This is where a high-yield savings account usually makes the most sense. And in many cases, a money market account at a bank can also work. You get decent interest compared to a normal savings account, and you can generally transfer money to checking within a couple of days. Now, quick clarification, because this confuses a lot of people. A money market account at a bank is not the same thing as a money market fund at a brokerage. The names are similar, but the products are different. Money market accounts are typically FDIC/NCUA insured. Money market funds are not. So if you see the word fund, assume investment rules, not bank account rules. And remember, FDIC/NCUA. Insurance is typically up to $250,000 per person, per institution, per ownership category. For emergency money, if you're using something called money market, make sure you know whether it's a bank account or an investment fund. Most people building an emergency fund will keep most of their money in Tier 2. Now pause. Let's make this ridiculously simple. Open your Notes app and write this down. Tier 1 equals today money. Tier 2 equals usually 1 to 3 business days. Sometimes faster, sometimes a little longer. Transfers depend on cutoff times, weekends, and whether it's same bank or bank to bank. Tier 3 equals 6 to 12 month money. Just labeling these buckets makes it easier to make good choices because now you're matching the money to the timeline instead of guessing. All right, Tier 3, this is for money you probably won't touch unless something bigger happens. It's like losing a job, needing to cover a longer stretch of expenses, or dealing with a major life change. Tier 3 is still about safety, but it's also where you can do a little optimization because you're not planning to touch it tomorrow. Common Tier 3 options are short-term treasury bills or a simple treasury bill ladder, and for some people, a CD ladder can also work, as long as you're truly okay with the access rules. A ladder just means you split Tier 3 into smaller chunks that come due at different times. Quick note, treasury bill ladders are simplest when you plan to hold each bill to maturity. If you sell early, settlement is typically next business day, and moving cash back to your bank can take another 1 to 3 business days, and the price can be slightly up or down depending on rates. So Tier 3 is best when you can hold to maturity. So instead of locking everything up at once, you create little maturity dates where a piece turns back into cash regularly. That reduces the fear of what if I need it. Because even if you don't touch it, part of it becomes available again on a schedule. But here's the rule. Tier 3 is optional optimization. If you're not 100% sure you won't touch that money, keep more in Tier 2. You don't get extra credit for making your emergency fund complicated. Now let's do a realistic example you can copy today. Assume you make $5,000 per month, and let's say your bare bones expenses are about $3,500 per month. A 3-month emergency fund would be $3,500 times 3. That's $10,500. Here's a clean split. Tier 1, need it today, $1,000. Tier 2, 1 to 3 days, $6,500. Tier 3, 6 to 12 months, $3,000. 1,000 plus 6,500 plus 3,000 equals 10,500. And if you don't have 10,500 yet, here's the starter version. Tier 1, $500. Tier 2, everything else you've saved until you hit your first 2,000. Then, once you're stable, you can add Tier 3 later. Now, the most common mistake I see is this. People keep everything in checking because it feels safe, or they put everything somewhere higher earning and then realize access is slower and they feel trapped when they need it. The fix is not finding the perfect account. The fix is using the timeline system. Checking is for spending. Tier 1 is for today problems. Tier 2 is your real emergency fund engine. Tier 3 is optional optimization. And here's a small trick that's surprisingly powerful. Name the accounts. Call it something like emergency fund, do not touch. Because most emergency fund failures aren't math problems. They're temptation problems. But once you do that, the next thing that trips people up is the beliefs around emergency funds, especially the stuff that sounds smart but keeps you stuck. So let's do a quick lightning round and clear these out. Myth number 1, if it's not earning the max yield, it's pointless. No, emergency funds are insurance, not an investment. Myth number 2, I need all of it instantly. Most emergencies can wait 1 to 3 days. Myth number 3, I don't have enough to split. If you have $500, you can split. Now the trap I teased earlier. A lot of people chase yield and put emergency money into something that can drop in value or something that forces them to sell at the wrong time, and then the emergency becomes, I had to sell at a loss. So here's the rule that keeps this simple. If the value can drop right when you need the money, it's not emergency money. It might be a savings goal, it might be an investment, but it's not an emergency fund. Here's the trap in one sentence. If it's a fund, not an account, and it can fluctuate or force you to sell, it's not Tier 2 emergency money. Now, once your emergency fund is in the right places, the next question is the one that actually decides how safe you feel. How big should your emergency fund be? 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months? Because the right number depends less on personality and more on how stable your income is and how expensive your life is to pause. So here's what to do. Keep this tier set up, and in a couple of days, my next video drops where I'll help you calculate the exact size you should aim for. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because that video is the missing piece that turns this setup into a complete system. I'll see you in that one.